Good afternoon. President Bongbong Marcos will meet with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken when the U.S. official visits Manila next week to discuss the strengthening of ties between the U.S., the Philippines, and Japan. According to Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo, Blinken will arrive on March 18. During his visit, the U.S. Secretary of State will meet Marcos in Malacanang. Manalo adds that the Department of Foreign Affairs has not yet received confirmation that Japanese Foreign Minister Yoko Kamikawa will be coming to Manila. Manalo, Blinken, and Kamikawa were supposed to meet on March 20 for a trilateral ministerial meeting on bolstering defense and economic relations between the U.S., the Philippines, and Japan. Marcos says he hopes to strengthen and formalize the cooperation between the three countries. This comes amid rising tensions over the maritime row in the South China Sea. Chinese President Xi Jinping earlier called on China's military to prepare for military conflicts at sea and protect Beijing's maritime rights and interests. For President Marcos, Xi's directive did not come as a surprise. He adds that China has defined the 10-dash line and they continue to defend it. Marcos assures that the Philippines will continue to defend its maritime territory against a possibly more active attempt by China to take over Philippine territories in the West Philippine Sea. China continues to assert its claim over most of the South China Sea, including the West Philippine Sea, despite a 2016 arbitral ruling effectively dismissing Beijing's sweeping claim. President Bongbong Marcos says that the anti-narcotics campaign of the Philippines has changed significantly, maintaining that he is against the use of violence in approaching the illegal drugs problem. Marcos makes the remarks in his tete-a-tete with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz during his working visit in Berlin. Scholz asked Marcos about his approach to the illegal drugs problem vis-a-vis former President Rodrigo Duterte's Oplan Tokhang, which was heavily criticized for its high death toll. According to Marcos, while the proliferation of illegal drugs remains a big problem, the government's approach changed significantly. Marcos explains that he is opposed to handling the illegal drug problem through violence. He adds that a much deeper understanding is required to address the issue. The president says that among the reforms his administration initiated was the reorganization of the Philippine National Police officials. This was to weed out some police officials involved in what Marcos called some of the more nefarious practices during the Duterte administration's war on illegal drugs. Marcos' statements come amid Duterte's recent criticisms against the president's frequent foreign trips and the charter change being pushed by his allies in Congress. President Bongbong Marcos dismissed the criticism of his predecessor, former President Rodrigo Duterte, that he was just out for leisure in his foreign trips. In an interview with reporters in Berlin, the president stresses that his schedule was so tight that he did not have time to go sightseeing during his 3-day working visit to Germany. During a rally held at the Liwasang Bonifacio, former President Duterte accused Marcos of just going on foreign trips for leisure and not for work as the highest official of the land. Since March 12, Manila time, Marcos had back-to-back meetings with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and executives of German companies. He also attended the Philippine-German Business Forum. Marcos then met with the Filipino community in Berlin and then sat down for an interview with reporters. The president flew to Prague, Czech Republic, and arrived at 12:43 a.m. on Thursday, Manila time. The president's visit to the Czech Republic is Marcos's fifth country to travel to in 2024. Prior to Germany and Czech Republic, Marcos traveled to Brunei, Vietnam, and Australia earlier this year. The House of Representatives approves on second reading a bill seeking to revoke the franchise given to Sunshine Media Network International, or SMNI. During the plenary session on Wednesday, March 13, House Bill number 9710 by one-rider party list Representative Ramon Rodrigo Gutierrez was approved via voice voting. The second reading approval comes just a day after the House Committee on Legislative Franchises approved the bill and the subsequent committee report. In a sponsorship speech, Parañaque's 2nd District Representative Gus Tambunting highlights that the committee found SMNI committing several violations as it spread misinformation and disinformation. They also found SMNI engaged in blatant red tagging of past and present government officials without presenting evidence. The House initially investigated SMNI after Laban kasama ang bayan host Jeffrey Celis wrongly claimed that Speaker Martin Romualdez spent 1.8 billion pesos for his trips in 2023. House Secretary General Reginald Velasco then clarified that the total travel costs for all House members and their staff from January 2023 to October 2023 was only 39.6 million pesos. Meanwhile, in a separate press briefing, Tambuntig says the bill seeking SMNI's franchise revocation would need to go through the processes that a regular bill does before it is enforceable. This means it has to be approved by the House and Senate before being forwarded to the President for his signature. Here's the latest roundup of today's top stories. President Bongbong Marcos to meet U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken when the U.S. official visits Manila next week. President Marcos dismisses criticism of former President Rodrigo Duterte that he is just out for leisure in his foreign trips. And bill seeking to revoke SMNI franchise approved by House on second reading. These are the stories you need to know today. I'm Neil Mercado. Follow INQUIRER.net on Facebook, X, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit. For more stories, visit INQUIRER.net. Good afternoon.